At Citi Field in New York, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball. Today, the Mets play the Atlanta Braves. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. The latest lineup of cars and SUVs you'll find at your local Hyundai dealer aren't just new, they're better. By M&T Bank, what's important to you is important at M&T Bank. Learn more at mtb.com/meet us. By the New York Lottery, play Quick Draw from the New York Lottery and get drawn together in a fun way. By the Lexus RX, RX Hybrid, and RX F Sport. By Raymore and Flanagan Furniture, furnishing your style. And by ChevyOffers.com. For generations, baseball has been passed down from generation to generation. And what better way to celebrate that tradition than on Father's Day, a day for dads and their sons and their daughters. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you today, and a happy Father's Day to you as the Mets take on the Atlanta Braves, trying to avoid getting swept by the lowly Braves after what was easily the Mets' worst loss of the season. They blew a 3-0 lead yesterday, and the Braves finally took the lead in the 8th inning when one player, Ender Inciarte, put tremendous pressure on the Mets.
Well, really, the Mets got hustled out of the building when you think about it. Ender Inciarte on the line drive to Granderson, timed it, and as soon as Granderson lobbed it back into the infield, he took a chance and was successful. And then after that, when there was a slight pass ball wild pitch that just got past Rene Rivera, he took a shot. This is a Braves team that's only won 22 games. They haven't been able to put together a lot of hits, and he was able to do it there.
And then when the Mets had a chance to get the game even, perhaps in the 9th inning, a base coaching mistake.
Well, regardless of the mistake, and it was a mistake, can't send a guy home to make the first out. What happens here on this lonely double is that the Atlanta Braves, when they were challenged by the Mets with a little bit of pressure, hit the cutoff man, Ibar with a one-hop strike, and Flores was toasted home. Mets made some mistakes late in that game, and like I said before, really got hustled here at Citi Field.
And again, it was Inciarte who instigated that play from left field, made that first throw that resulted in the out at the plate. On the mound for the Mets this afternoon is Jacob deGrom. A really special day for Jake. His first as a father on Father's Day, and it's also his birthday. He's 28 today.
Well, what a day, and I thought that his last start was his best all season long. 3-0 in April, and 8 starts since then. He's 0-3. Time for him to turn the tide.
And the Mets trying to avoid a sweep, taking on a very tough customer, the Braves ace, Julio Teheran.
Forget about his record at 2-7. His ERA has been perfect. He's been their best pitcher, maybe an all-star kind of pitcher for this Atlanta Braves team. His only issue, the home run ball.
A beautiful Father's Day at Citi Field. Mets try to avoid the sweep. Mets and Braves, all the action coming your way this afternoon on Pix 11. Get big savings at the Toyota Father's Day sales event. Toyota, let's go places. The Mets welcome Dead & Company to Citi Field Saturday, June 25th and Sunday, June 26th. Original Grateful Dead members are united with an all-star cast, including John Mayer. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Dead & Company. Themes of the game brought to you by your local Hyundai dealer.
Well, James Loney was with the Padres organization when the Mets acquired him, and he's been real good as a Met so far. Our friend Frenchie Frank Gore with a solo home run on a changeup last night. Father time, and Gary said before, new daddy Jacob deGrom on his birthday here, pitching at home against the Bravos.
House filling up. Jackson's dad getting ready to throw the first pitch. That'll be momentarily. Come on back. July 2nd with post-game fireworks presented by Citi. Be here when the Mets take on the Cubs at 7:15 in an NLCS rematch, and stay after the game for an exciting fireworks show that will light up the sky. For tickets, visit Mets.com/fireworks. Mets and Braves getting set for the finale of their series. Jacob deGrom set for his 12th start of the year. Hasn't won a game since April the 30th. Mostly not his own doing. He's been pitching well, just not getting a whole lot of support. Braves starting lineup brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com today. The Braves have won 4 in a row, matching their longest winning streak of the year, and they'll try to make it 5 today with Malik Smith back at the top of the batting order. He sat last night against the lefty. Tyler Flowers gets rewarded with a start today after a home run and a double last night. A.J. Pierzynski will sit against the right-hander. That's rare.
Well, I thought Jacob deGrom in his last start had his best stuff all season long. We showed his numbers 2-1 this year at Citi Field. In his career, 13-8 with a 1.93. Look at the defenses. Brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer, Conforto, Cespedes, and Granderson in the outfield. In the infield, Flores is going to play every day with Cabrera and Walker. James Loney has been one of their better hitters, and Kevin Plawecki gets a big start here on Sunday.
deGrom's last start against the Pirates, he was in a scoreless duel with Jamison Tyone until the 6th. Jung Ho Kang hit a 2-run homer against him. That's all Jake gave up, and that was enough to beat him that day as the Mets were shut out. Jake has gone 8 starts now without a win, trying to snap that on Father's Day this afternoon. And as you can see, both teams are wearing special Father's Day uniforms today with light blue lettering to highlight the fight against prostate cancer.
See right there, DeGrom just motioned to his first baseman Loney. Here, I got you. The ball over there, I'll cover.
Alex Smith has already shown a propensity for bunting in this series, and so the Mets have to be alert to that. DeGrom ready to go, and his first pitch of this Father's Day afternoon is a fastball in at the knees for a strike, and we're underway. Alex Smith 0 for 4 in this series, hitting .241. And the fastball just missed, a ball and a strike.
One thing we saw from DeGrom in his last start, Gary, ball on the knees all game long. First mistake really was the gong on that 2-run home run.
Jacob DeGrom has been the Mets' sunshine Superman. In his career in the daytime, he's 13-2 with a 1.57 ERA. He's a Florida kid. He feeds off the sun.
That's right.
2-2 to Smith.
I was just going to say someone's getting good sleep.
Maybe not anymore.
That's right.
Not with a 2-month-old at all. Two to Smith. Ties him up. Did he go? He did not. Mark Wegner with the call down at third. 3-2. Ender Inciarte, who caused havoc last night, is on deck, and then Freddie Freeman for the Braves in the opening inning. 3-2 from DeGrom, and Smith fouls off the fastball.
That's what I was talking about in the open. 0-3 in those 8 starts since. ERA is good. He hasn't gotten a lot of run support.
And that's on the outside corner. Smith is punched out for the first out of the day.
Well, if you looked at the stat book before the game started, these Mets pitchers don't walk anybody. So on the 3-2 pitch right on the corner by DeGrom, Smith sits down.
Met pitchers have worked 597 innings this year, allowed 167 walks. That's the fewest of any staff in the National League. Now Ender Inciarte. There's the home plate umpire for today. Mark Wegner behind the plate. And it's up and in to Inciarte, 1-0.
Well, Inciarte, we showed in the open his hustle. He is a good player. Started the season though got hurt and coming back ever since. Unbelievable outfielder, great arm, and he's kind of a pesky type of hitter.
And DeGrom quickly falls behind him, 3-0. Inciarte, acquired from Arizona, was hurt early in the season. It could prove to be one of the great trades that the Braves have ever made. Inciarte only a small part of it. They got the #1 overall pick in the draft from a couple of years ago, Dansby Swanson, a shortstop who is working his way up quickly through the Braves system. Also got last night's starting pitcher Aaron Blair in that deal. So it could be a substantial trade when the deal where they gave up Shelby Miller,
who has struggled. Shelby Miller now third organization for a guy who throws over 95.
Struggled and now hurt, and it certainly has not worked out well for Arizona, at least not yet. Second straight full count for DeGrom, and Inciarte fouls it away.
Big separation for me, Gary, this year with DeGrom has been his ability to keep the ball down, which he did unbelievably in his last start, but also the foul tips, foul back of the pitch, 3-1, 3-2, 2-2, have kept hitters in the count more than they have in the past.
Inciarte pops it up. In comes Flores to call, and that's the second out. So DeGrom wins that battle, 2 out and nobody on, and that's just the way he wants to face Freddie Freeman. With the bases empty, Freddie's been red hot. He went 0 for 3 last night, but over the last 6 games, 13 for 26. Coming off a cycle earlier this week against the Reds. And that's rocketed toward the right field corner, and Freeman's got himself an extra base hit. Granderson's throw comes in, but Freeman standing at second base with a 2-out double. So Freddie Freeman wasting no time, his 14th double of the year.
Well, we've seen this from Freeman this entire series. Very aggressive. And you see this slider spin to get it over against Freeman, and he was not having it.
So everything's coming up aces for Freddie Freeman these days, and now Nick Markakis will try and cash him in. Markakis just 1 for 8 in this series. But despite the low batting average of .239, he's hitting .314 with runners in scoring position this year. It's one of the reasons why Brian Snitker liked the fact that he could move Malik Smith up to the leadoff spot. Markakis, who was hitting leadoff, now in an RBI spot, hitting behind Freeman. Markakis not the power hitter he once was.
You know, Gary, it's got to help Freeman too, putting Markakis, an established Major League Baseball player, behind him in that 4th slot. They've had a lot of youngsters behind Freeman earlier in the season.
Adonis Garcia has been there at times this year. Garcia has been sitting out this series with an ankle injury, normally the 3rd baseman. And the curveball from DeGrom bounces in, 2-1. Jake today celebrating his 28th birthday. 28's a big year in baseball terms, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. That was what, my 5th year in the major leagues.
It's really the year you stop being a young player.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Right? That's punched toward the middle, but right there is Cabrera to snag it, and that retires the side. So DeGrom gets around the double by Freeman. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the 1st against Julio Teheran with no score. Michael Conforto down in the 7 slot in the batting order after an 0 for 3 day yesterday. It's a little unusual against a right-hander, but it's been a struggle for Conforto. Yoenis Cespedes hit his 17th home run yesterday. James Loney had a big day at the plate. And the Mets today will take on the best the Braves have to offer. field where he failed to get the ball in properly, which led to the go-ahead run. But he also went 0 for 5 and struck out looking to end the game with the tying run at third. 1-1 to Curtis.
Looked like the Wainwright curveball by Jim Johnson.
That's a good call right there.
Right?
Stakes a little smaller.
Yes.
1-2 to Granderson.
It was partly the right field play, was partly styling / brain freeze. That's what it was. And what's interesting is that Inciarte was asked about it, and he said he's been watching Granderson occasionally lob the ball back to the infield, and he thought, if I get a chance, I'll take advantage of that. And he did.
And he timed it perfectly.
Yeah.
He took off as soon as Curtis released that lollipop throw. That's ripped down the right field line with foul. I thought Curtis's reaction after the game was typical Curtis Granderson, but interesting.
I found it less than interesting. I thought it was one of those things where you just have to own it. All you have to say is, boy, did I mess up there? That's inappropriate. Curtis is one of the smartest ball players I've ever watched play.
Popped it up on the right side. And who's going to take it? Second baseman Peterson. And that's the first out. Well, Curtis does have a habit when talking to the media of downplaying everything, right? Everything's like everything else. A slump is like a hot streak. You play the game every day, and there's a certain equanimity to that, which is positive. But maybe yesterday wasn't the day for it.
The problem, though, is that you have a lot of young players in the clubhouse, and if David Wright is not in the clubhouse, you're one of the leaders. How you lead is that you own it. You fess up and you own it. Because if you own it, then the lesser players, the younger players, don't have to own it. You take it upon yourself. That's one of the things about being a leader of a ball club.
As Drupal Cabrera 3 for 8 in this series. Had a couple of hits in last night's game, and he hits the curveball in the air on the left side of the infield. Shading his eyes, his eyebar, struggling with it, but he stays with it and makes the catch. So the sun is not bright at the moment, but it's bright enough.
Oh, that's a nice job with the glasses, with the glove. Finally it's almost like you run around the baseball until you find a spot that you're not looking straight into the sun, and that's what Ibar did. Flip downs.
And the hazy sky today. You can see that. Sometimes those are the toughest. So 2 out and nobody on. Now here's Cespedes, who hit a rocket in the third inning last night for his 17th home run of the year. That's tied for 4th in the National League. And as has generally seemed to be the case, Cespedes got a breaking ball while he was ahead in the count, and it hung, and he crushed it. They're the home run leaders in the National League. Adam Duvall hit his 20th last night for the Reds in the losing cause.
He's having a Dave Kingman type of season. On base percentage under 300.
Oh, 2 from Teheran, and it's a wake-up call. 1-2.
It's the home run you were talking about, Gary. Just a little hanging breaking ball in the middle. He's one of the best breaking ball hitters in all of baseball, and teams continue to throw him breaking balls in the strike zone. You can throw it to him, just not in the strike zone. Teheran, if you want to know why he's been pitching so well, he went through a little malaise there for a while where he really was throwing a lot of changeups and breaking balls last season, the year prior. He's gone back to using that good fastball.
He was an all-star 2 years ago for the Braves. Slumped a little last year. May well be an all-star again this year, despite a 2-7 record. And a foul tip is held by Flowers, and Cespedes down on strikes. 1-2-3 go the Mets against Teheran. No score after 1. Fathers and children, Father's Day in the ballpark. Whether you bring your pink glove or your gray hat, you're all set for a day with Dad at the ballpark. Tyler Flowers leads off the second inning for Atlanta. Flowers hit a monstrous home run last night out to left center, and he takes a strike.
Off Jim Henderson, which we have some news. Well, not really news on him, but he had some shoulder irritation.
Well, they called it an impingement last night, and they put him in an MRI tube this morning. No results yet. But it was clear from that first pitch to Flowers, a 91-mile-an-hour fastball that left the ballpark at about 107, that something was not right with Henderson. He faced one more batter, then came out of the game. And, you know, Henderson's got a history of shoulder issues, so it certainly raises a red flag. And what was fascinating watching the game was that Dan Warthen went out to the mound to talk to him, and normally when Dan goes out, that means the pitcher's staying in. Then the sign went to the bullpen. It's like, wait, something obviously is wrong. 2-2 to Flowers.
Yeah, Dan never makes the changes, and he pointed to his left arm to the bullpen right away.
What was interesting was that Rene Rivera lifted his left arm before Dan did. It's almost like the catcher was calling for the reliever. Fouled at the plate.
Well, this is the Flowers home run. Fastball up, supposed to be away, and not with a lot of mustard on it, like Gary said. And for you folks at home, an impingement feels like you don't have complete rotation. Like when you take your arm back and you go to throw, it's almost like something's blocking you in your shoulder.
Two from DeGrom, and Flowers fouls it off. Jake threw 19 pitches in the first inning, ran a couple of 3-2 counts. Long turn at bat for Flowers to start the second, and these are the things that Ronnie was talking about. Hard for him to get as deep into games as he'd like. He's had too many long at bats. And another foul ball. His start against the Braves back in April was typical. He lasted just 5 2/3 innings, even though he only gave up 1 run. Beat the Braves that day, and he's got great career numbers against Atlanta. Flowers takes the curveball down, 3-2.
Nice shot there behind Neil Walker, and second base umpire Mike Winters.
Third full count in the first 5 batters, and DeGrom comes right back with the curve to strike out Flowers for the first out.
Well, against a guy throwing 93 plus, you think you're going to get the fastball. 3-2, especially first time through the order, and he did not there. Flailing swing by Mr. Flowers.
So DeGrom has his second strikeout. Now Jace Peterson. Peterson 1 for 6 in the series. Didn't start last night against the left-hander, and it's fouled off. You know, we talked a lot about what happened late in the game to the Mets last night. Henderson giving up the home run, Inciarte stealing a run, the bad send in the bottom of the ninth. But the other piece is that Steven Matz was handed a 3-0 lead, and gave up a couple of extra base hits in the 5th and 6th that enabled the Braves to get closer.
Yeah, he said he didn't warm up well. He felt a little stiffness. And he was at 99 pitches, correct me, after 6 innings. So probably wasn't going to go too much further. But that's one of those games when you have that kind of lead against a team that's had only won 21 games to that point, that you have to just slog through and get at least into the 7th or 8th.
I'm interested in a little piece of what came out of the end of that game too, as far as Matz is concerned. You know, Terry Collins in his post-game press conference said that Matz's elbow was a little stiff. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but a little bit of stiffness in your elbow is kind of a normal thing.
Well, it is a normal thing. Go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
I was just going to say, is it in Matz's and the Mets' best interest for the manager to say that, or is he better off just not saying anything since he was going to come out of the game at that point anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I were pitching, prefer my manager not to give an account of how I feel after a game. That being said, you know, there's a history with Steven.
Peterson pops it up. Flores retreating toward the tarp. And reaching, and he tumbles over and he held the ball. What an incredible play by Wilmer Flores. The catch was hard enough, but then falling behind the tarp and hanging on made the degree of difficulty that much greater.
Well, we've got Thor, we've got the Dark Knight, now we've got Tarp Man. Nice catch by Wilmer Flores. That ball drifted back almost over his back shoulder and somehow made the play, somehow held on to it, and then almost disappeared behind the tarp, or did.
He almost became a rain delay. Hit out toward the right field line by Chase Darnell. Granderson can't get to it. It's a foul ball.
I was saying before what you asked, Gary, there's a history with Steven with having tightness or flexibility issues, whatever. And, you know, I think that at times Terry Collins feels compelled to relay that to the press because, you know, he hears it a lot more often than he should. When you pitch at this level, you are either broke or you're sore, and you're going to be sore a lot. And I'm talking about sore almost every start. And you have to work that soreness out. That's how it is. And that maybe the time that Steven is missed, he's going to have to learn to plow through that.
Oh, and 2 to Darnell, and it's upstairs. I would imagine from Steven's standpoint, though, if you've had the history he's had, missed 3 seasons because of the Tommy John surgery, had the lat issue last year that kept him out a couple of months, he's got to be on guard a little bit, I would think, about the nature of the way his arm feels on a start-by-start basis.
I think he's got to be less and less on guard, Gary, because the only way he's going to be great, and he can be great, is he's got to make the call every 5 days.
1-2-3 inning for DeGrom, helped by this incredible play by Wilmer Flores. He met the tarp, and he came up a winner. Outstanding, Wilmer. All-Star Game ballot now at MLB.com on your computer, tablet, or smartphone. Vote up to 35 times. Vote today, vote tomorrow. Vote at MLB.com/vote. Home second inning. Neil Walker leads off against Julio Teheran, who set the side down in order in the first. Walker 1 for 8 in this series. Watch Julio Teheran pitch, and he's all arms and legs out there. I would think he would be very tough for hitters to pick up.
You know, I thought when Rafael Montero came up for the Mets that he was going to be on that same path. He is. He's tall, long arms, long legs, hides the baseball well, and he really is. You can tell that he's pitching well this year. He's commanding that mound. Takes that ball out of his glove real early.
What's hard to remember about Teheran is that he's only 25 years old. Feels like he's been around forever. Native of Colombia. So he grew up in Cartagena, right on the coast.
Isn't there a small section of Colombia where a lot of the ball players come from? Is that Cartagena? No.
That's Barranquilla.
Yeah, like Renteria.
Edgar Renteria and Orlando Cabrera both come from there.
Where they play baseball more than football or soccer.
More than soccer, yeah. Walker gets under one to center field. Malek's Inciarte looking through the sunglasses, struggling with it, but stays with it. Oh, the sun is playing a big factor on everything hitting the air early in this game.
I mean, see the shadow over his eyeglasses, so that way he's got the sun out, and finally takes his glove away at some point when he knows he has the baseball. He had that tracked about 20 feet above his head. That's when he took his glove away because he knew where the ball was going to end up landing.
Here's James Loney, who had himself a tremendous night last night. Kind of got lost in the Mets' defeat. 3 extra base hits for Loney tonight, last night, for only the 3rd time in his major league career.
Including the triple where the back of his uniform was the most important part of that triple.
Yeah, he would have been out by 20 feet if he hadn't been hit in the back by the throw. But nonetheless, you give him credit for aggression on the bases. It was his first triple in 5 years. First Met to put together a 3 extra base hit game this season. And he rockets that one foul deep down the line.
I love the story that Joe Torre told me once, that at Forbes Field they used to put the batting cage in right center because it was so deep there, and he hit a ball that deep and was running around the bases, and the third base coach, as he looked at him because he wanted to try to run an inside the park home run, was laughing as he passed him. So he said, I'm probably going to be out at home.
Curveball by Teheran, and Loney went around 1-2. Well, I guess that means that if you get toward third and you see the laughing third base coach, you should probably stop.
Joe said he had too much going. There's no way of stopping.
It's like a freight train.
Yes.
Wilmer Flores waiting on deck. Two from Teheran to Loney, and he struck him out with a slider. Second strikeout for Teheran, who has set down the first 5. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Modell's. Shop Modell's Sporting Goods, your fan gear headquarters. Come on, Met fans, you gotta go to Mo's. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Wilmer, who hit his 3rd home run of the year last night. 14 games now since he took over as the Mets' regular third baseman, and Flores is hitting .356 over those 14 games. And it has gotten his season out of the doldrums. Who's Hot, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance, and there are those numbers on Wilmer.
Thought it was interesting what Terry Collins said in the beginning of the season. He thinks there were 2 reasons why he got off to a slow start. One, of course, he didn't play a lot, And 2, they moved him around the infield. He said he thought that was a disservice to him. He's going to leave him at third base and let him play just there.
Grounded to Ibar, circles in and throws on the move to get Flores, and that retires the side. Teheran has set down the first 6. No score after 2.
Provides a futuristic look at the stars of the late 1980s.
That had to be Cleon Jones' son wearing number 21.
I love how Ralph said those are the stars that could happen in the distant future, the late 80s.
From 1974. I think that was Joe Pignatano.
Yes, it was.
In the gear behind the plate. Longtime Mets coach.
2 of the best tomatoes.
Eric Ibar leading off in the 3rd inning against Jacob deGrom, who required 38 pitches to get through the first 2 innings. And Ibar bluffs a bunt and takes a slider for a strike. Ibar has swung the bat better since coming back from the disabled list about a week ago. 7 for 19 since returning. He's got his batting average up over 200 for the year. And he pulls that one foul. Nice dance move by Eddie Perez, the first base coach. The 1999 National League Championship Series MVP.
That's right.
Going to be first line in his bio forever. That one hit the foot of Eric Ibar, and he's going to go to first base. Only the 2nd batter deGrom has hit this season.
Just a slider down and in that clips him on the shoe. Right off the instep.
Well, Mets had a batter hit in the foot last night when Alejandro De Aza was hit by a pitch. And now Ibar suffers the same fate, and he'll get a visit from the trainer on the way to first base. He has not been able to avoid injury this whole year. Remember, we told the story on Friday night how he was on the disabled list with a foot injury. Might have been the same foot. And then he got hit in the ribs right after he came back. Had an incident earlier this year when he got a chicken bone stuck in his throat and had to miss a game. And now he gets hit in the foot again. It's been a very painful introduction to the National League for Eric Ibar. After spending the first 10 years of his career in Anaheim. And he'll stay in. And the pitcher Julio Teheran will come up, and the Mets will look for the bunt. Teheran 3 hits, but 5 sacrifices already this year.
Teheran has always been one of the better bunting pitchers in the National League. See what he can do against DeGrom, though.
Well, DeGrom introduced himself.
Well, I was going to say, you know, there was a time that after the up and in pitch to Cespedes, that would have been an answer that would have happened. I don't know if they do that anymore. But it did make a difference in Teheran's attitude about reaching over and making that bunt.
Now Teheran needs to look down at Bo Porter, the third base coach, to see if he's still being asked to bunt. Flores, as he charged from third on those first 2 pitches, playing cat and mouse as though he's expecting a butcher boy play rather than charging hard.
Teheran's not a good hitter. He's going to be bunting the baseball. Take it away from him.
And one more. See him back up.
Yeah.
DeGrom fields the bunt and the out at first. So the sacrifice successful. 1 for him, moving Ibar to second. 1 out. Malik Smith coming up, and we check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Gary, one of the great traditions of summer just a few weeks away, the Nathan's hot dog eating contest at Coney Island, and the champion, the reigning champ, Matt Stoney, is joining us right now. He ate 62 hot dogs last year to unseat Joey Chestnut, 8-time Nathan's world champion. Matt, when I eat 3 hot dogs, I think that's way too much. How do you train for an event and train your body? And you're only 130 pounds, which is kind of disconcerting a little bit, but how do you train your body to consume that many hot dogs in 10 minutes?
You know, Nathan's makes a delicious hot dog, and the event, for those of you who've seen on the 4th of July, it's an insane event. The adrenaline is pumping, and it's hard to prepare for it, particularly, but, you know, we eat hot dogs. I love hot dogs. I cook them up at home all the time, eat them, and, you know, 2 weeks to the contest, that's what I'll be doing for the next 2 weeks.
Ibar to third after that Malik Smith fly out to center field. How do you determine, okay, this is something I want to try? How do you know I can become a competitive eater and eat that amount of food?
You know, it started, it was my first year of college. There was I was working a summer job in an arcade, you know, $7 an hour minimum wage. And there was a lobster roll eating contest across the street. I was actually up in Boston. And I remember looking, I won $1,000 for that contest, 10 minutes. I was looking at my paycheck, $1,000, like, I'm in the wrong business. I got to start competitively eating. So it just snowballed from there.
All right, well, we appreciate the time, Matt. Before we let you go here, as Enciarte singles in the run, so it'll be 1-0 Braves. But before we let you go, how many are you going to eat today when you're just messing around watching the game? And the real serious question is, when you're not eating competitively, ketchup or mustard on the hot dog?
It's all about the mustard. I like both, honestly, but if I had to choose one, it's mustard.
All right, and how many today?
I'll put back 3. 3's a good number. All
right, 3's a good number. Thanks so much for the time. He is another mustard guy, Gary and Ron.
Yes, I noticed, Steve, that he said mustard. You did notice that, right? So the Braves get a run after the hit by pitch, sacrificed, long fly ball, and then Enciarte, who has been just a huge thorn in the Mets' side in this series, drives in the run to make it 1-0 Atlanta. Freddie Freeman doubled his first time up. See, the thing about the hot dog eating contest that has always thrown me is that they have to eat the buns. If they only had to eat the meat, the hot dog, I could do that.
So the dipping of the hot dog and the bun into the water doesn't bother you at all?
That's kind of, well, but you only have to do that because of the bun. If it weren't for the bun, you wouldn't have to dip.
I long for the Kobayashi days, honestly.
But I have a question, because Matt was talking about a lobster eating contest. Yeah. If you have to eat the bun with the hot dog, do you have to eat the shell with the lobster? Is that part of that contest?
Or maybe you have to deshell it. That's tough.
Oh, you're saying that there's actually some manual skill in that?
No, they probably just it's probably the same as the hot dog one, but do they have the main bun? which is the flat on both sides where they grill it in the butter.
The lobster roll.
The lobster roll.
As opposed to just eating lobster.
There you go.
So it probably have to dip that in water too. Okay, enough of that.
I mean, they get huge crowds for that, Coney Island.
Yes, they do. 1-2 to Freeman. And that's stroked the other way, and Freeman's got another hit. Inciarte pulls in at second, and Freddie Freeman's 2 for 2. Now has 15 hits in his last 28 at bats. Just impossible to get out right now.
Well, he's that kind of hitter. When we were watching him earlier in the year, I remember Keith was at the games in Atlanta and was almost couldn't believe what he saw from Freeman, but he has turned it around and become the leader of this ball club, as he should. He's as good a hitter as any in the National League, in my account.
So a big spot in this game now for DeGrom facing Nick Markakis. He's already down 1-0. Mets struggling against the Braves ace so far today. And Nick Markakis up with 2 men on. Markakis hit a soft liner to short his first time up. And DeGrom works him up and away.
DeGrom doesn't look early as sharp as he did in his last start.
He's below the knees, and Plawecki's going to run the ball back to him after DeGrom falls behind 2-0 to Markakis.
The one thing that happens as a pitcher is when you start to give up a couple of hits in a row, see Flowers on deck, you start to, in your mind, start to get too fine. You want to throw the ball precise because you don't want to give up any more hits, and that's how you get behind hitters. Still have to be aggressive.
And Markakis cracks one into right center for a base hit. That'll bring Inciarte home. Freeman going to third. Cespedes' throw is a shade late. So 3 straight 2-out hits produce another run. Markakis drives it in, and it's 2-0 Atlanta.
It's now 38 runs driven in by Markakis. 2-0 fastball, and I meant be aggressive early in the count, but he challenged Markakis. And you talked about his ability to hit with runners in scoring position. Off the charts for Markakis. Inciarte, we saw last night, great speed. He'll score easily. And Freddie Freeman, who does not have a lot of speed, but I think is a good base runner, tests Cespedes' arm.
And stayed on the bag after the overslide. So runners at the corners with 2 out. Here's Tyler Flowers, who struck out his first time up. And the slider off the plate for ball 1.
Well, Cespedes came up throwing, has one of the best arms. One hopped it in there. No chance to kick Freeman, though.
And again, DeGrom finds himself behind 2-0. Tyler Flowers, originally drafted by the Braves back in 2005, but came to the big leagues with the White Sox, played there for 7 years before returning to the Braves organization this year. They have a lot of returnees. Right? Jeff Francoeur,
right.
Jim Johnson. They had Kelly Johnson back for a 3rd tour earlier this year. Low and away, 3-0 to Flowers.
Flowers got the job in Chicago when they decided A.J. Pierzynski was no longer going to be their catcher, and now they're teammates.
DeGrom really struggling right now behind Flowers. 3-0. Jace Peterson would be next. And there's ball 4, and the bases are loaded. So a 4-pitch walk, the first walk of the day for DeGrom, and that'll get him a visit from Dan Worthen. So already Plawecki's been out once, and now Worthen coming out to see if he can be of any assistance. Meanwhile, the pitch count growing exponentially for DeGrom, and he's got a big batter to get out now, and Jace Peterson already down in the game 2-0.
Well, the look into the sky, it's almost a pitcher's lost on that mound. And Worthen, of course, with some encouraging words, and The key is just somehow, some way, fight your way through this inning. It's been always one of the great strengths of Jacob, is that he's got so much fight in him that he never gives in or never gives up.
So here's Peterson, who had a foul pop-up on which Wilmer Flores made a stunning play in the second inning. Now batting with the bases loaded and 2 out. Freeman, Markakis, and Flowers the base runners. And Peterson takes a fastball strike. So far, not a very happy birthday for Jacob deGrom. He can improve the celebration immeasurably with this batter. 1-1.
You've gotten yourself into a corner, Gary, where you have to get this out. Have to.
Peterson grounds one down to Loney. And he'll take it himself to end the inning. So the Braves score 2, but deGrom strands 3. 2-0 Atlanta in the third. The joys of the baby carrier.
Baby Bjorn, Gary.
Called it a snuggly when I was back in the day. Today's high-speed pitch comes from Modell's, your fan gear headquarters. deGrom 95, Teheran 94. But Teheran has the upper hand on the scoreboard. 2-0 lead as we go to the bottom of the third. Michael Conforto dropped to 7th in the order against a right-hander. That's the first time that's happened this year.
Well, look at the on-base percentage, under 300 now for Conforto.
Well, he had a terrific game the last game of the Pirates series, but has not had a hit yet in this series, going 0 for 7. And the Braves taking advantage of the pull mode that Conforto's been in, playing the full shift against him. Michael swings through the fastball, 1-1. Julio Teheran's retired the first 6 to start his afternoon. And he busts Conforto inside, 2-1. Teheran coming off what has been a typical game for him this season, his last outing. He allowed 3 hits in 7 innings against the Reds, struck out 8, walked 1, lost 3-1. And that's really the way his season has gone. Too high with a changeup, and it's 3-1. His run support has been non-existent.
Well, they're averaging 2.2 runs per game when he takes the mound. That is almost a crime. baseball crime.
He's behind Conforto 3-1. And Michael lines one to left center for a base hit. Inciarte comes over to play it, and he'll hold Conforto to a single. Now that's the Michael Conforto the Mets want to see, the one who uses the whole field.
The one who uses the whole field, and more importantly, Gary, the one who works himself into good hitters' counts. Took a couple of pitches inside instead of swinging at him, got himself to a 3-1 count, and didn't try to do too much.
And now it's key that he not try to do too much here, because Julio Teheran has one of the best pickoff moves in the game.
Well, he's got a balk move that they do not call, which is, if you watch his front leg, we'll take a look at it. His front leg will bend right before he throws, but it's so quick and so subtle, they do not call it.
There's Kevin Plawecki, and he takes a fastball on the corner.
If you're a runner at first, your eyeballs are on that front knee of a right-handed pitcher. As soon as it bends a little bit, he is supposed to go to the plate. That's the key for you to look at, and that's why he gets runners at first base.
Now for the Mets, who are not a base-stealing team, it shouldn't be too hard to avoid getting picked off, you would think. The Mets are playing their 68th game today. They have 13 stolen bases, which is dead last in the National League.
Doesn't David Wright lead the team? I think he does. He has 3.
Might lead them all year. I mean, we've known for a long time that the Mets have a lack of team speed, particularly with Juan Lagares out of the lineup. And the slider strikes out Plawecki, so the third strikeout for Teheran, 1 down in the inning. But it was never more evident than it was last night. The Mets' lack of team speed.
Yeah.
As they
Boy, had a big dot on it, but good movement there from Teheran. Not a lot of team speed. They're just not a very athletic team. They hit the ball out of the ballpark like they did last night.
Here's DeGrom with 1 out and 1 on. Jake has just 1 hit this year, 3 sacrifices. And the Braves are not even looking for the bunt. And he does square and takes outside. The third baseman, d'Arnaud, was back even with the bag, which is not where you normally play when you're expecting the pitcher to bunt.
Well, d'Arnaud has a little bit of inexperience. He's played in the outfield, the middle infield, third base now is where he's found a home with Atlanta. You've got to be a little closer, like 3/4 of the way there, and just make a reaction from there.
And DeGrom set to swing, and he takes outside 2-0. Curtis Granderson waiting on deck. One of the reasons Teheran has been so good this year is he's cut down his walks and raised his strikeout rate from last year. There's that move to first. 2 years ago, Teheran was an all-star, 2.89 ERA. Last year, 4.04 because the walks ballooned. He's always given up a lot of home runs because he's a strike thrower when he's right. But he's been so much better this year than last. DeGrom flies one out to left, chasing Malik Smith back, but he's got room. And he runs it down at the edge of the warning track. I mean, Met pitchers can hit, but the Oppo pop would be a little too much to ask for.
Well, needed to be in Philadelphia.
Might have been in the flower bed.
Yes.
So now 2 out. Here's Curtis Granderson, who popped up his first time up. Curtis had an 8-game hitting streak snapped last night. The best stretch that he had been in all year going into last night's game. Curveball into Granderson for a strike.
Well, it's nice to watch Teheran's motion. He is kind of a slender pitcher, high leg kick, and really drives off that back leg. So even though he's slender, he uses all of his 100, 180, 185 pounds to throw the way he does.
Change up outside, a ball and a strike to Granderson. Curtis has a home run in his career against Teheran, 4 for 16. Conforto at first and 2 out. And the curveball drops in for a strike, and it's 1-2.
So he's got all 4 pitches: the fastball, the changeup, the slider, and then this. Occasionally he'll flip that curveball over to get ahead in the count.
Throws it only about 7% of the time this year, but he's already broken off a few good ones today. Now he's ahead in the count, 1-2. 2-2.
Trying to go inside with that 4-seamer. Didn't do anything because he ended up and away. Wonder if he tries to go back with a fastball inside.
Flowers moves away, and the curveball hit to center field. Inciarte trying to close, gets there, and that retires the side. So Granderson flies out. Teheran works around his first base runner. 2-0 Atlanta after 3.
Family, to my dad who's here today. He's had a rough year, as you can see. We're blessed to still have him, and he's the only reason why I'm standing here today, because he believed in me more than I believed in myself.
That was 3 years ago when Mike Piazza was inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame. He's going into the big building this summer.
He deserves it. Boy, that was so heartfelt. When was Mike drafted? What round?
62nd.
Jeez.
As a favor to his dad by Tommy Lasorda, his pal. Neil Walker catches Chase Darno's pop-up for the first out. Well, he's going in to Cooperstown this summer. He'll be honored here at Citi Field shortly afterward. He'll have a weekend all to his own at the end of July here at Citi Field.
Well, you know, it'll be great is because of the proximity. No, I shouldn't say proximity. It's a good hike out there, but there's so many Met fans. It's going to be loaded out there with the orange and blue.
Here's Eric Ibar, who was hitting the foot with a pitch, which got the wheels rolling on a 2-run inning for the Braves in the third. And he tops one foul ball and a strike.
You probably haven't because you're always working. Have you ever been to an induction ceremony?
No, I've only been to Cooperstown in the winter. Never been there in the summer.
I've only been once. Dennis Eckersley asked me to go when he got inducted, he and Paul Molitor, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life.
Really?
The whole weekend. Oh, I mean, you're standing in a room with, you know, Willie Mays and Seaver, and I mean everybody.
They always talk about the the veranda at the Otesaga Hotel as being the gathering point for all those Hall of Famers.
It's amazing. There's they all, and it's almost like you're transported in time, because the way they're speaking to each other is not as older men. It's like when they were 25 or 30.
I know, talking to Ralph Kiner about it, Ralph would never miss a year. That's pulled to the right side. Loney with a nice grab. Now DeGrom gets over to cover, and a perfect feed from Loney. It was backpedaling as he threw, and that's the second out.
Well, this is another thing that Loney gives you, is that he has the ability, when he goes to his right, to be able to make a throw on the run. I've mentioned it a couple times that he has such a great arm. They thought he could be a pitcher, and DeGrom, he's got great speed, long strides, makes it look easy at first base. See how he didn't stop, kind of run through the bag.
Right. That was the mistake Bastardo made the other night. Teheran lines one right at Walker, and that ends the inning. An 8-pitch inning for Jacob DeGrom. He needed that. Middle of the fourth, 2-0 Atlanta. Will have the day off tomorrow to regroup before the Kansas City Royals come in for 2 games, and then it's straight on through the All-Star break. 2 games with the Royals, then a trip to Atlanta and Washington. Then they come home to play the Cubs, and the competition level gets ratcheted up.
It's amazing that you could even mention the All-Star break, but here it comes, Gary.
It's only what, 3 weeks away now.
That's right.
Terry Collins was asked today, when does the sense of urgency increase in the season? Because there's a feeling around here with the Mets 6 games behind that the time is nigh. Yeah. And Terry said at the All-Star break, that's when it really goes up a notch. Here's Asdrubal Cabrera, who popped up his first time up. But the Mets are in an interesting position. We talked going into this series about how 7 of the next 9 would be against the Braves, a team they certainly expect to dominate. Well, here the Braves have won the first 2 of the series, a chance to sweep today. Mets find themselves 6 behind the Nationals, only a half game in front of the Marlins, and they've got that incredibly difficult piece of schedule coming up: Washington, Chicago, Miami, Washington, right before the All-Star break.
Which is also a great opportunity because you're playing Washington, but you're in a part of the schedule where you can't win your division, but you can certainly put yourself behind the 8 ball.
I mean, think about it in these terms. The Chicago Cubs, they're pretty close to putting that division away.
Yeah, they are.
On the 19th of June. They're 11.5 games in front, which I read this today, is the Cubs' largest lead of a division or a league since 1929. Largest lead at any point in the season. since 1929. And there are the Central standings. So if the season ended today, the Mets would be in the wild card game with the Dodgers or the Marlins. They're tied for the second spot.
Yeah.
But I would say that this stretch before the All-Star break is going to be very important. 3-1 to Cabrera, and it's hit in the air, shallow center. Coming on is Inciarte, and it makes the play. 1 out. And that may sound like a cliched statement. It's going to be really important, but to what you said, you can let things slip away if things don't go well over the next 3 weeks.
Well, I think even more importantly, Gary, it's a look in the mirror time. Like, what kind of team do you have? Is Wilmer Flores going to be a guy that you can count on for the last 3 months? Those are the kind of questions you're asking. Is Travis d'Arnaud going to come back on top of his game, ready to go to really lengthen your lineup? Those are the questions that are going to be asked, answered, you hope, in the next couple of weeks.
There's Cespedes, and he pops one foul. Well, last year, the Mets were kind of languishing until they made the deals in late July that changed their season. This year, if they were to have that same record after 102 games, I don't think that the deals would even be made.
Yeah.
Because the Nationals are not going to be as close to the Mets at that record, you would presume, as they were last year.
Yeah.
Last year, the Mets never fell more than 4.5 games behind the Nats, even when the Mets were struggling, because the Nats had problems of their own. Those problems don't seem to be quite the same this year.
Well, the Mets record through these 68 games, 36-31, same record they had last year at this time.
Teheran struck out Cespedes his first time up. And Cespedes hits it right at the first baseman, and Freeman makes the play, 2 out. So Freeman alone on the right side of the infield, camped in the right spot to retire Cespedes, and there are 2 away. Now Neil Walker will fly to center his first time up.
Boy, Teheran looks in the zone, doesn't he? Locked.
Walker fouls it back. Neil Walker, the only current Met whose dad played in the major leagues. He saw his dad, Tom,
that's right,
in Pittsburgh. The Braves have one player whose dad played in the major leagues, Brandon Snyder, who played third base last night. His dad, Brian, played briefly in the big leagues as a pitcher in the late 80s. Pull, just foul.
Cup of coffee, as they say, right? When you've just made a couple of quick trips to the major leagues, not a lot of experience.
You know what they call that? Getting on the pension plan.
Right.
There was a time in the early days of the union you had to have 4 years big league experience to get on the pension. Now it's 1 day.
1 day.
1 day in the big leagues and you're on the pension. And who knows what riches the players will reap in this next contract negotiation. Whatever it is, I hope they fight for better scheduling.
I'd like them to fight so I'm not person who can collect their pension. That's what I like to fight for.
Again, the 0-2. And Walker yanks that one foul. And the curveball strikes out Walker to end the inning. Fourth strikeout for Teheran. He's had one in every inning. After 4 at Citi Field on this Father's Day. Braves 2, Mets nothing. Mets down 2-0. That's a great view from above the Shea Bridge.
Never seen that shot. That's awesome.
Must be looking down from the edge of the Coca-Cola corner.
Yeah.
Third time around the batting order for Jacob deGrom. Malik Smith pops up the bunt and Plawecki plucks it. 1 pitch and 1 out. Well, here are the probable starters for the 2 games coming up against the Royals. Noah Syndergaard meets the Royals again, faces Ian Kennedy Tuesday night. Then Wednesday afternoon, Bartolo Colon against Danny Duffy, who's been the best starter recently for Kansas City. For more on the Royals, let's check in with Steve.
Gary, Kansas City's had a very streaky year, although right now they're playing well, winners of 7 of their last 8. And part of that probably is because they're playing at home again. The home road splits for this team this year have been incredibly different. 16-8 at home as compared to just 13-23 on the road. They have a .750 winning percentage at home. So they've just been incredible at home this year. And one thing that you're going to see, you mentioned Noah Syndergaard, he's not going to see Alcides Escobar at the top of the order anymore with the Royals because Whit Merrifield has been an absolute revelation for the Royals over the last month. 27-year-old career minor leaguer who has come up. He has hit .339 since his recall, moved up to the top of the order, and Alcides Escobar now batting second. That's the last 9 games. The Royals are 7-2 since making that switch.
And Steve mentioned the Royals hot, winning 7 of 8 after losing 8 in a row. I mean, they got a lot of guys having big years. Eric Hosmer hitting over 300 with 12 home runs. So is Salvador Perez. And so they've more than made up for the absence of Mike Moustakas. And interestingly, the last couple of days, Kendrys Morales, who had been struggling all year, has begun to hit. And the question is, can they find a way to get Morales, normally their DH, into the lineup for these 2 games?
Much like they had to do with Billy Butler a few seasons ago. But I think that's a great point by Steve. 24-8 at their home ballpark.
And a swinging strike, and Inciarte is down on the curveball. That's the 4th strikeout for DeGrom, who's now retired 6 in a row. There's the AL Central. The Indians beat the White Sox last night to stay in first place. They scored 13 last night. The Royals scored 16 in their win against Detroit. Royals finishing their series against the Tigers this afternoon, facing Jordan Zimmerman. Here's Freddie Freeman, who's already 2 for 2 today.
Verlander's been good. Fulmer's been great for a rookie, but not much in the starting pitching for the Tigers.
Well, we've seen enough of Jordan Zimmerman to know that he'll be okay.
Yeah, oh yeah. I should include him, but the bottom of their rotation is not good.
Well, Pelfrey has really struggled.
Yeah.
1-2 to Freeman.
Anibal Sanchez went to the bullpen.
One thing about the Royals coming in, their bullpen is good, but not as good as it has been the last few years. Swing and a miss, and DeGrom with the high fastball gets Freddie Freeman out for the first time today. So DeGrom hitting his stride, back-to-back strikeouts. Halfway through, it's 2-0 Atlanta. And daughters, fathers and sons. Great day to be in the ballpark. Mets Health Report brought to you by Affinity Health Plan, serving the needs of New Yorkers for over 30 years. Mets should have Travis d'Arnaud back in time for the start of the series with the Royals on Tuesday night. Caught last night, catching again today, and that should do it for his rehab stint. And the Mets hope that Travis will be able to hit the ground running when he arrives Tuesday night, because they could certainly use the offensive help. They've had one base runner through the first 4 innings against Julio Teheran. A single by Michael Conforto in the 3rd. Loney struck out his first time up after his 3 for 3 night last night. And the first pitch curveball in for a strike, and Teheran throwing more curveballs than he normally does, especially this second time through the order.
Well, it's fun to watch a pitcher on top of his game, and you know, to do it and have a record of 2-7 takes a lot of guts and insides for Teheran. I mean, his ERA is equal to some of the guys that have double-digit wins in the league.
Well, we talked about Teheran's run support, but Jacob deGrom is starting to get the feeling as well.
That's right.
In deGrom's last 3 starts combined, the Mets scored a total of 2 runs. And here they are getting shut out so far today.
See, Teheran had that prostate cancer sticker on his left kind of chest there, and it came off, so he just put it in his back pocket.
And a borderline strike. Loney didn't think so, and it's 2-2. Wilmer Flores on deck, then Michael Conforto in the home fifth. And Loney bloops one. That'll go foul.
You know, Terry Collins was talking about Loney. I think for folks that haven't followed his career, some teams have been disappointed because he hasn't shown more power, but he hit 280 last year. This guy's an accomplished hitter, knows how to hit.
Lifetime 285 hitter. And a pretty good glove at first base. And Loney with a half cut foul tips it, and that's strike 3. Badly fooled on the curveball, and that's 5 strikeouts for Teheran.
Again, like you said, Gary, Teheran, this second time through the order, using more curveballs. On this one, backdoor, and Loney wasn't sure whether to swing or not, and that half swing produced a foul tip.
So Teheran's retired 7 in a row. Now Wilmer Flores, who grounded out to short his first time. Wilmer has the defensive play of this game so far. A sprawling backhand catch in foul territory that led him to fall between the tarp and the stands. He takes a big hack at a slider, and it's 1-1.
Well, what Teheran does is that he tries to get you on that seesaw. When you're looking fastball, he counters with something soft, and he gets ahead of you, then he'll elevate that fastball.
Grounded out to short, and Ibar's got it. 2 out. Well, when you look at the Mets offense and you compare it to last year, what stands out is the fact that the Mets are hitting more home runs and scoring fewer runs. Doesn't figure, does it?
Right. Well, they're not putting enough hits together before the guys hit those home runs.
Mets are second in the league in home runs with 90, but 13th in the league in runs scored. Here's Conforto as the Mets only hit today, a single to left center that led off the third.
You know, Gary, if you want to look at the stats, you pick 2 particular players, Neil Walker and Curtis Granderson. Their home runs are outstanding. 13 for Curtis, 14 for Walker. But in those 13 home runs, Granderson only is driven in 21. Walker is only driven in 28 with 14 home runs.
Which is almost impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, really, especially in Granderson's case, 13 homers, 21 RBIs. That's almost unprecedented. But the reason is that Curtis is hitting 111 with runners in scoring position. So he's just not driving in any other runs except for the runs that come in by the home run.
Again, Conforto in a hitter's count.
And he fouls away the fastball, 2-1. Remember when the Braves were deciding between Julio Teheran and Randall Delgado?
And it was nip and tuck. I mean, they weren't sure who to send over to Arizona.
It was very close, and clearly they chose correctly.
Came up heads.
Conforto takes on the inside corner, 2-2.
Well, the problem with Teheran is that he had won, I believe, 16 games in AAA. Thought he would make the team the next year. He didn't have a good spring. He didn't make it. So he kind of moped through a AAA season and didn't pitch well. That's why his stock plummeted within the organization. But then he made the team out of spring the next year. And like you said, 2 years ago was an all-star.
And he was very young then. He was 20, 21 years old. And he has really blossomed. 95, the hardest pitch Teheran's thrown this afternoon. Nobody's stepping out with the plane flying over.
It's casting a shadow.
Keith would have had a conniption.
I know. It's casting a shadow too, right over the pitcher and hitter.
Of course, there was so much of a bigger factor at Shea Stadium. They've changed the flight pattern since, and very rarely do planes fly over now, but it used to be a constant refrain in the old ballpark. But it did definitely bothered some guys more than others.
I mean, I never even heard it. Ever heard it. And the only time I would hear it is because a hitter would step out when it would happen. And Keith stepped out almost every time.
Every time. 3-2 coming. In the air to center field. Inciarte circles in. And that retires the side. Teheran's retired 15 of his first 16 batters. He leads 2-0 after 5. By Land Rover above and beyond. Braves got both their runs in the third, driven in by Inciarte and Markakis. Jacob deGrom's given up only 4 hits and struck out 5, but he finds himself 2 runs to the bad as the Braves come up in the 6th. Markakis 1 for 2 with that RBI single, and he takes the pitch low for ball 1. Both the runs came with 2 outs in the third after deGrom had hit Eric Ibar on the foot with a pitch. 3 straight 2-out hits produced the 2 runs, and Teheran has made them stand up. DeGrom's had a couple of easy innings in a row after a slog through the first 3, and so his pitch count is reasonable in the 6th inning. Off speed, hit out to right field. Granderson flips the glasses, back on the track, looking up, and it's out of here. Nick Markakis, just his 2nd home run of the season. And the Braves extend their lead to 3-0.
Well, usually when we're in the booth here, when someone hits a home run, you can hear it. And it didn't even sound like Markakis covered that baseball. It almost sounded like he got jammed a little. Ball really carried to right center field. But in our replay, might have been not absolutely covered, a little off the end, but he got enough.
High changeup like the home run Frank Core hit against Steven Matz last night. The ball and a strike to Tyler Flowers. That's only the 6th home run deGrom's allowed this year in his 12th start. So Markakis, whose home run power has really dried up since the neck surgery 2 winters ago, hit this one well back in the bullpen.
Boy, you see how it just sat there, almost like it's on a tee when you throw those high changeups. You asked hitters too. When they hit that high changeup, they have that backspin working that keeps the ball in the air a little longer. Right now, DeGrom, the last few starts, Gary's almost like he's pitching well enough to lose because he's pitching against some pitchers are doing a little better.
Well, we've said this before in stretches like last year when the Mets had offensive difficulties. At some point, when you have an elite pitching staff, and the Mets have an elite starting pitching staff, somebody's going to go out and throw a shutout. Foul tipped and held for strike 3. Flowers down for the second time. 6 strikeouts for DeGrom. And that's just not happening right now.
Yeah, it's not. You know, the last time we saw it really was, and I'm not going to include Bartolo, even though he got into the 8th, but Syndergaard really ran it out there the way you think that these young pitchers can do it. But Nicasio pitched the best game he pitched all year in Pittsburgh. That beat DeGrom. Then he pitched against Tyone back-to-back against Pittsburgh. That's Tyone's first win. That was the best game he's had. And now he's facing Teheran, who hasn't given up a run yet.
Jace Peterson is 0 for 2 today. And DeGrom gets a high strike, 1-1.
You know, we talk about the gun a lot when we see it, and we say to ourselves, boy, this pitcher is throwing this or that or whatever. But it's interesting, DeGrom, the last couple of innings really hovering around 91 and 92, Gary.
Right, it was 93 to 95 earlier in the game.
And last start.
Bounces the slider, and it's 3-1.
That's the pitch he has not been able to control, the slider. Changeup has been all right. Curveball has been maybe his better breaking pitch.
3-1 coming, and it's bounced foul.
You know, when you're on the on-deck circle, what are you trying to do as the on-deck guy? You're trying to time that fastball as it comes in.
Chase d'Arnaud trying to get a read on DeGrom. 3-2 coming to Peterson. It's grounded down to Loney. And makes the flip for the second out. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Hurry into your local Tri-Honda dealer for great savings on 2016 models. DeGrom up to 96 pitches with 2 out of the 6th. And the Mets bullpen is cranking behind him.
Jacob up
on the left,
second.
and Jerry Blevins, the left-hander, on the right.
Sorry, Gary. Jacob up second. Next inning.
d'Arnaud takes a strike, struck out and popped up. Mets will be in Atlanta for 4 more games starting on Thursday night. Check swing tapper, and DeGrom off the mound. That retires the side, and so there'll be a d'Arnaud family reunion in Atlanta over the weekend. Well, not a whole lot going on in that box score. Michael Conforto, the only base runner for the Mets through the first 5 innings. Had a leadoff single in the 3rd. And Julio Teheran has kept the Mets from doing anything else. 3-0 Atlanta as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Teheran at 71 pitches through 5 innings. Jacob deGrom looking like he's done for the day. Kevin Plawecki will lead off. Kelly Johnson's come out on deck to pinch hit for deGrom. Plawecki struck out his first time up, one of 5 strikeouts for Teheran today. And the curveball misses inside ball 1. It's going to be interesting to look at the percentage of pitch usage for Teheran today, because it's going to be very different from his normal usage of the curveball.
What'd you say, 7% in his first 14 starts?
Comes back with a slider and misses 2-0.
Well, 3-0 league. This is where it's almost automatic for the hitter. He knows he's going to get a 2-0 fastball, because Teheran has to with the big lead. A big lead, ample lead.
Well, it's big with the bases empty. I'm always interested looking at those first 3 pitches. Okay, curveball, slider, slider. When you're a pitcher who throws 2 different breaking balls, how do you keep from them becoming the same pitch?
Well, I used to have 2 different grips. I didn't throw really a slider through a cutter. But if you have 2 different grips, like in your mindset, it's easier to throw it. Now, if you throw them both off the same grip, because some guys take a little off or change the tilt with their arm angle, I think it's much more difficult to do that. But like what I would do with the curveball, Gary, is I'd try to get more on top of it, as opposed to the cutter. I'd be more in my natural motion. That would be kind of what I would do. So you would say to yourself, well, that's 2 different arm slots. The hitter going to see that. Well, it depends on when you're throwing it. If I'm just trying to get it over, I don't care if he sees my arm slot, because he's not supposed to swing at it if it's the first pitch of the at bat.
Three and 2 to Plawecki. Well, Kevin has to know that his tenure here could be short right now, with d'Arnaud coming back Tuesday night. And there's certainly been plenty of conversation about the Mets keeping the more defensive-minded backup in Rene Rivera and letting Plawecki play every day in AAA. Pops one up. And Ibar takes charge of it. 1 out. And that's not to say that that's locked in stone, but that certainly appears to be what the Mets are thinking.
Well, it's always difficult to talk about a player's future, but Kevin's got to, at some point, got to get enough at bats to get where he was, and that is, they think of him as a guy that has always hit everywhere he's ever been. He hasn't been able to hit here yet. Why is that?
Well, I'd be interested to see if Kevin does go down, whether there'll be any thought given to getting him back to what he used to do, which was stand right on top of the plate and hit the ball to right center field.
It seemed to be the more natural way for him to do it. Kind of stood real tall in the box, right on the dish, and kind of looked for any pitch to pull.
Kelly Johnson had been on deck, but with 1 out and nobody on, it'll be Alejandro De Aza instead. De Aza, who appeared as a pinch hitter last night and was hit by a pitch. 0 for his last 17 at the plate. So deGrom is done after 6 innings. Allowed 3 runs and 5 hits. Walked 1, struck out 6, hit a batter, allowed 1 home run. And so for deGrom, unless the Mets are able to put up a passel of runs here in the 6th, it'll be his 9th straight start without a victory. Curveball drops in for a strike, 1-2.
Shake of the head says it all by Jacob right there.
Birthday cake may not taste quite as sweet tonight. But then he'll pick up his little one and everything will be okay. Almost everything.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It cures a lot of the ills that you'll have after an outing. I mean, a quality start, but not at his best. He had to know coming in that he was going to face Teheran, who's pitched as well as anyone in the National League. And I know that's hard to say with a guy with a 2-7 record, but what do you expect his record to be with the Braves?
Well, look at it this way, and you gave some numbers before about Teheran's support. This is Teheran's 15th start. It's only the 4th time in 15 starts that he's had at least 3 runs of support. So it's an unusual circumstance for him. Meanwhile, the Mets have now scored 2 runs total in DeGrom's last 4 starts. So he's had the same problem. Granderson waiting on deck. 2-2 to De Aza. And he breaks his bat as he rolls one out to Ibar. The running backhand. And he makes the play. Nice play by Ibar. 2 down.
This whole Braves team looks so much more rejuvenated than they did when you and Keith had the games in Atlanta. Playing with a little more hustle.
Well, I think there's a bounce that you get from the managerial change.
You do. You do.
You know, they were slogging, and that's no knock on Freddie Gonzalez. It's just what was happening. And Brian Snitker has taken over, and they've played a little bit better over the month that he's been there.
Well, when you have a team that is challenged like the Braves, because they've made so many trades of some of their better players, Kimbrel and others, Simmons, to bring other players in and really to bring young players in to replenish their farm system, it can be frustrating. So you either have to be frustrated or buy in. And a guy like Brian Snitker, who's been with the Braves, what, 40 years? He's a guy that's always going to buy in, you know, always be positive. And maybe that's what you need.
Well, the Braves are trying to win their 5th game in a row today. The last time the Braves won 5 in a row was when they started last season 5-0. Granderson taps one. Teheran's got it. And that retires the side. Teheran's faced 19 batters and retired 18 of them. On to the 7th we go. Still 3-0 Atlanta.
Well, he's helping it inch back up there now. Well hit to center field. Devon White going back. Gone! A 2-run home run.
And he can still hit anybody's fastball.
And he hits one well to left center field. Dante Bichette. Back-to-back home run.
What else can these guys do?
Talk about your father and son moments.
Wow.
Ken Griffey's senior and junior homering back-to-back against the Angels.
Junior was here this homestand, wasn't he?
Was. Allegedly.
Going in with Mike Piazza into the hall.
He made a surreptitious entrance and exit.
Well,
Junior did. Antonio Bastardo on to pitch the 7th.
Pitched on Friday night, gave up a hit, walk, strikeout in an inning of work, didn't give up any runs.
Eric Ibar was hit by a pitch and scored in the 3rd. Grounded out. Nice play by Loney in the 4th. Pitcher Teheran on deck, and then Malik Smith in the 7th. And Bastardo gets a swinging strike, 1-1. So DeGrom threw 98 pitches over 6 innings, 3 runs, 5 hits, a walk, 6 strikeouts. His ERA goes up to 2.96. And his stretch of winless starts extends to 9. Last win for DeGrom came on April the 30th against the Giants.
Wow.
So he's heading toward 2 months without a win.
Almost the same start as Matt's had yesterday, right? Same numbers, same number of pitches.
Difference is Matt's
had a lead.
3-0 lead.
Yeah, you're right.
Bastardo got himself in trouble the other night when he had trouble getting off the mound to cover first base on a ground ball by Freddie Freeman that resulted in an infield hit. Cost him an extra 12 pitches or so.
I guess my point was really you're expecting one of these guys to say, hey, listen, just jump on my shoulders. I got it today kind of games.
Well, the ball goes to Syndergaard on Tuesday night. And he certainly has been at the top of the aces. Line the other way by Ibar, and that's going to go all the way to the wall. And Ibar pulls into second base with a leadoff double. So Eric Ibar, who has really perked up since coming back from the disabled list, on base for the 2nd time today.
Just the fastball away, he jumps all over it and drives it down that right field line. The Ibar this series looks like the Eric Ibar I remember from the Los Angeles Angels. Pesky, dangerous, does a lot of good things to help you win a ball game.
Now Teheran will come up and the Mets will look for the bunt. He's already sacrificed once today, lined out, hit the ball hard his last time up.
He's got 6 sacrifices so far on the season.
And a pickoff move, but nobody covering. Let's play conventional defense, and it's taken outside for ball 1.
I think the hardest part about this play, Gary, is for the base runner. You have to remember that you don't have to go if the bunt is really poor. You have to read it. So if it's a hard bunt right back at the pitcher, you've got to be able to read that. You're looking for something that Flores has to handle that gives you a free pass to third base.
Well, this was that play that Keith was so great at as a left-hand throwing first baseman, really charging hard and taking the pitcher and third baseman out of it so they could make a play at third.
Well, he also would take advantage of the AstroTurf because the ball would bounce and bounce up to him, so it made it a little easier. Plus, he had no fear.
Well, Loney was charging hard that time as Teheran fouled it off.
See, the one thing, this is how the defense has to work. Flores has to pause and wait at third base and see what happens. If the ball is bunted hard, then he comes in and makes the play. Bastardo, who didn't move at all, after he throws the pitch, has to bust his rear end to the third base line, because as a left-hander, that should be an easy play on the run for him. He didn't move. He's got to. And Loney will come in, and if the ball's bunted hard to him, he has a chance at third, although he's got to be careful because it's a tag play.
Teheran gets it down. Loney will field, but his only play is at first. And so for the second time today, Julio Teheran executes the sacrifice. 3-4 on the sacrifice, moving Ibar to third.
Bunch of fingers on his left hand, just kind of playing the flute or the saxophone. Nice and relaxed. Maybe that's his sign to keep his fingers nice and relaxed, because you want the ball, when the ball hits the bat, you want it to come back in your hand a little bit. Because if you hold it too firm, you might bunt it straight back to the pitcher too firm.
So now the infield comes in, and with Ibar at third and Malik Smith at the plate, the squeeze is certainly in order for Atlanta. Smith has already shown his propensity to bunt in this series. But he goes after the first pitch fastball, 0-1.
Well, he hit a ball deep enough in the third inning, and his second at bat drove Cespedes in center field.
Might be a little tougher for him against the lefty. Alex Smith has had 45 at bats against left-handed pitching, just 3 hits. And he's hit on the hand, and they say he did not swing, so he'll get first base. So Malik Smith gets drilled by Bastardo, and he's in some severe discomfort.
I mean, that ball hit both of his fingers. I mean, it would have hit him right in the stomach. Ball's supposed to be inside, instead right at him. I mean, it ricochets off his fingers right into our camera. After 2 fastballs away, just trying to stay on that fastball, and he gets hit by it. Seems to be in considerable pain as the trainer maneuvers his fingers around.
Looking at that left thumb. Well, it's not often you get hit on the thumb by a pitch.
It's always my favorite, too. The trainer loves to manipulate it while it's barking.
So Malik Smith goes to first base, and still certainly in some discomfort. So now first and third and 1 out, and Ender Inciarte coming up. I want to get him the oven mitt to protect that thumb.
It's almost like it hit it right off the end, maybe the nail.
Mets middle infielders play halfway with Inciarte at the plate. Tough man to double up. He's 1 for 3 today. Drove in a run with a third inning single.
Bastardo really marches to the beat of his own timed drummer. He just will not throw it unless he is completely comfortable, and that usually takes a few seconds.
I believe that would be called adagio.
There you go. Very nice, Gary.
And a bunt, not a squeeze play, but it's foul back.
The Braves are taking a book out of the 70s with some of this baseball they're playing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was designed to do. If that was just Inciarte bunting on his own, or if it was a safety squeeze.
Well, that was a safety squeeze. Yeah, he's trying to make a bunt in the sense that Ibar reads it and can score on the play.
But Ibar was not far down the line.
He wasn't paying attention.
Maybe not. Got great speed at first in Malik Smith, who already has 14 steals this year. Don't know if he's too concerned about his thumb to be running.
I don't know if you'd want to run because there's a big hole open between Loney and Walker on that right side. And you talked about very hard double up Inciarte.
One thing about these first and third situations, the Mets have had a propensity this year for allowing that runner at first to take second base uncontested. And Inciarte gets knocked down. So after Malik Smith got hit in the hand, Bastardo, trying to prevent the bunt, comes up and in and flips the hitter.
Throws it right at him. And then Inciarte barely got out of the way. Again, just squaring around to try to see if he can push a bunt in a certain way that Ibar can score.
Bo Porter, the third base coach, goes over and whispers. And now a balk is called against Bastardo, and that'll bring in a run. Ibar comes in on the balk. Smith goes to second. And it's 4-0 Atlanta.
Well, they were messing around on the bases at the at-bat by Inciarte with Bastardo, and he couldn't handle it. See how he moved right there? Kind of sat back on his back leg. Can't do that. You have to stay completely still.
So the flinch costs Bastardo a run. 1-1 to Inciarte, and it's way up high. This has been a very difficult stretch of games for Antonio Bastardo. A double, a sacrifice, a hit batsman, and a balk. Filling out his dance card. And that was an odd-looking bunt. Not sure what the purpose of that one was.
No, I don't have an answer this time, Gary. Should be trying to drive a run in here with one out.
Smith at second, Freddie Freeman on deck. Smith getting a huge lead, and Bastardo finally looks him back. And that comes inside. So Bastardo either conveniently wild or pitching inside with a purpose.
Yeah, no, he's not conveniently wild. He just has the inability right now in the last few outings as Robles gets up to make an adjustment.
Three-two coming. Smith takes off, and it's slapped foul. Alex Smith was racing for third on the pitch. Well, these Braves demonstrated last night in the person of Inciarte what smart base running can do for a team that's limited offensively.
Well, I think they've been putting some pressure on the Mets defense, and the Mets defense has just not responded.
Three-two coming. Inciarte pops this one up. This will stay in play. Flores retreating, and he makes the grab. Cabrera wisely comes over to cover third so that Smith can't advance, and that's the second out. Here's your Honda National League scoreboard. Rockies and Marlins no score. Tom Kohler pitching one of his better games to date. Diamondbacks in front of the Phillies. And you see the later action, Nationals and Padres. The Padres did the Mets a huge favor last night, rallying for 6 runs in the 8th inning against Felipe Rivero to pull one out. Kept the Mets 6 behind. Here's Freeman, who's 2 for 3. First base open. Left-hand hitters Freeman and Markakis. So pick your poison. Freeman has a single and a double today. Markakis has a single and a home run.
Just who knows what's going through Antonio's head, but just does not look comfortable on the mound.
Well, he's always been a guy who takes a lot of time between pitches. And it has seemed as his results have gone backwards, he's taken even longer.
And that's the wrong way to go. You have to go the other way. Get some tempo going. It's 2 outs. You don't have to worry about Smith. If he wants to steal, let him steal. You worry about the hitter.
To an 0 to Freeman.
This is where you run into the veteran hitter. 2-0. You think you can just throw a slider in there. Sometimes the veteran hitter will sit on a breaking pitch.
So those numbers for Freeman against Bastardo, if I recall correctly, he was 0 for against Bastardo when the year began. So those 2 hits have both come this year.
Good pitch by Antonio there on the outside part. It is amazing, though, isn't it? With starting pitchers, you talk about tempo and working quickly, and the relievers are just the opposite. Most relievers are just the opposite.
Why does it have to be that way?
I don't understand it. Maybe it's Andy Warhol, your 15 minutes of fame.
Well, could they make it 13 minutes? 2-2 to Freeman. Two coming to Freeman, and he rockets one to right field. Granderson moving over on the track, and he drops the ball and he hits the fence. In to score comes Smith. Freeman at second with a double. It's 5-0 Atlanta. Great effort by Granderson. Never had it securely in his glove, and when he smacked the wall, the ball came free.
Like you said, great effort, and once he bounced into that fence, it came free. A lot of topspin on this baseball, which allowed Granderson a chance to make the play, and almost comes up with it, and would have if he hadn't banged into the wall.
So Freeman has his 3rd hit of the day, his 2nd double. He is just locked in right now. That ball was a shot. 7 hits now for the Braves, and Freeman has 3 of them. Nick Markakis has 2, including a home run.
Well, he has an unusual swing, but one thing he does have is a very quick bat. And he will put the opposite of what you see from a lot of home run hitters. He puts topspin on the ball as opposed to hit under it and put some backspin on it.
Chop to Walker, and he throws out Markakis to end the inning, but the Braves had a couple against Antonio Bastardo. And the Boo Birds making themselves heard. 7th inning stretch, 5-0 Atlanta. Father's Day 2016. Beautiful day at the ballpark. Not a whole lot to cheer about for Met fans, but a day to cheer Dad. Dad is everywhere today, and Dad is everything. A day at the ballpark with Dad, better than steak at the Ritz.
I want to say hi to my friend Stephanie, who it's a melancholy day today. She lost her father, Charlie, who was the biggest Mets fan. And I know it's a sad day for her, but she said that this year she was going to root for the Mets all summer long.
That's great.
Yeah, right? Just for her dad.
Line score brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Around the Majors brought to you by Infinity. Visit your local Infinity dealer for a test drive today. Well, the Pirates have lost 16 of their last 21, in danger of falling too far behind the Cubs to even think about catching them. They're 14 games out. They'll play the Sunday night game tonight with Jamison Tyone making his first start against anybody other than the Mets, and Kyle Hendricks going for the Cubs tonight. Cubs with their largest lead since 1929.
The dunk tank.
Jeff Francoeur takes over in left field. Malik Smith got hit in the thumb by a pitch, and he has come out of the game. I'm sure they will take him for x-rays. Julio Teheran working on a one-hit shutout through 6, and now he's got a 5-run lead. This is the first time the Braves have scored this many runs for him all season.
That's right.
They had never scored more than 4 runs in a game for Teheran, and now they have.
So is our keys to the game. Father Time is in there. Jeff Francoeur.
And she always finds a way to get involved in the situation. As Dribble Cabrera leads off in the home 7th and pops up the first pitch from Teheran. Ibar looking through the sunglasses, puts it away, 1 out. 1 out. Let's check in with Steve Gill. Steve?
Gary, as we continue to celebrate Father's Day, you don't need to be around the Mets for too much time this season to realize how good of a dad as Dribble Cabrera is. He often has his 9-year-old son, Mayor, around the clubhouse from time to time, usually in full uniform. He comes out pregame on the field and plays with some of the guys. For as Dribble, he says it's so important to have his son around, because when he was growing up in Venezuela, his father was a good basketball player. He used to bring Asdrubal out to all of his games when Asdrubal was growing up, and Asdrubal said those are still some of his greatest memories. But it's not just Cabrera and his son that enjoy the time. Some of the players really like having Mayor around, one being Rene Rivera, who actually last season got to know him when he was on the both of them were on the Rays, used to put him out there in full catching gear and teach him how to catch. Mayer's a catcher right now, so he actually gave him some of his catching equipment, his glove, and as Rivera puts it, when you have a kid like that around, it really takes you back to why you love this game, to see that smile.
Guess we don't have a White Sox situation here, do we?
No.
It's nice to see.
Well, we showed earlier the Family Day from 1974. I used to love those days. My favorite picture of my oldest son was taken at one of those family days. He didn't really have much interest in the baseball part of it with the kids, but he loved being on the big field.
Mm-hmm. And putting the uniform on.
That's right.
The whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Cespedes 0 for 2 today. Struck out and grounded out. And he fouls off the breaking ball. Neil Walker waiting on deck.
Well, so far, and what he's done all season long, if you look at his ERA, is that Teheran's done a nice job of staying out of the middle of the plate, but even more importantly, he gets you on that kind of seesaw of hard, soft. He never throws 2 pitches in a row where he can kind of get your timing.
And he gets Cespedes looking at a fastball. Strikeout number 6 for Teheran. He's now retired 14 in a row since the Mets' only base runner, a single by Conforto back in the 3rd.
Breaking ball down and away, and then just the paint gets the call there from Mark Wegner.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Walker is flied out and struck out. The Mets have scored 4 runs in this series. They scored 1 run on Friday night. They had a 3-0 lead yesterday and wound up losing, and they have been shut out so far today. And for an Atlanta team that probably isn't going anywhere this year, this is an enormous confidence boost.
Well, especially since the Mets are going there for 4 games after a couple with Kansas City.
Driven out to center field by Walker, but right there is Inciarte. 7 scoreless innings for Teheran, who's now retired 15 in a row. After 7, 5-0 Atlanta. Scott and the Pix 11 News team with breaking news as it happens. Caitlin Monty is up to the minute traffic, and Linda Church with the forecast. 6 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. Play of the game brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. This is Wilmer Flores in action.
What a play. Stayed with it.
I mean, there's about 6 inches between that little advertising panel and the tarp, and somehow he found his way into that crevice.
Without banging his knee against the end of the tarp also.
Ty Kelly comes in to play second base. He'll bat 9th. Hansel Robles, the new pitcher, will hit on the 4th spot as Walker comes out. Robles worked Friday night. Faced 2 batters, a walk and a ground out. He faces Tyler Flowers leading off in the 8th inning. Flowers, after a big night last night, 0 for 2 and a walk. Antonio Bastardo had a rough 7th, gave up 2 runs, 2 hits. And now Robles in the 8th, and with the double switch, he might be asked to go 2 innings here. Jace Peterson on deck, and then Chase Darno for the Braves. And a swinging strike and a fastball, 1-2 to Flowers. Well, if it provides any solace to Mets fans as they get set to play Kansas City on Tuesday night, is that the Royals, who won the World Series last year, recently went through an 8-game losing streak only to find their way out the other side and started the day half game out of first place.
And it was on the strength of rearming their team, right, Gary? A lot of new players you're going to see in their Kansas City uniform.
Foul tipped and held, and Flowers has been struck out for the 3rd time today. Well, the other thing for Kansas City is they are about to get Alex Gordon back, not in time for the series this week, but he started a rehab assignment today.
So he'll probably go, what, a week to 10 days, and he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, they said 5 to 6 games.
Yep.
Coming back from a broken wrist.
Moustakas is out for the year, right? ACL?
Yes. Peterson rips one into right for a base hit. So Jace Peterson with his first hit of the afternoon. And the Braves' 8th. A 1-out single for Peterson.
Robles quick pitched Peterson, who wasn't ready, and still hit a single. So it tells you about all that work done to get your swing refined. See it and hit it.
Sometimes that's the best solution. It worked for the aforementioned Alex Gordon against the quick pitch.
Yes, it did.
Last October. By the way, the injury to Moustakas means that we get to see the wonderfully named Chesler Cuthbert playing third base for the Royals.
I'm going to let you handle that one. What was his middle name?
Chesley. That's lined into right field. A base hit for Chase Darno. So back-to-back singles for Peterson and Darno put 2 men aboard. Chesler Chesley Cuthbert, who grew up on an island 45 miles off the coast of Nicaragua.
Wow. We got to get Gelbsy on that story.
It's an island that was under American influence, so even though it technically is part of Nicaragua, they speak English.
English speaking.
Thus, Chesler Chesley Cuthbert. Here's Eric Ibar, who doubled and scored on a balk his last time up.
You know, Darno hardly has any take back. It really is a kind of simple swing. Almost the opposite of his brother, who has a lot of movement in his hands before he gets the bat to the ball. Darno, the elder, very simple.
Flores watches this one go out of play. No acrobatics for Wilmer this time. So Travis d'Arnaud comes back Tuesday night in all probability to an interesting predicament, right? I mean, you know, Travis is a guy who's still trying to figure it out at the major league level. He's had some success, but he hasn't had consistent success. He's been hurt so often it's been hard to get any long run of big league success. And he's coming back into a lineup that is struggling so badly that he has to avoid thinking about being the savior.
Well, I think, you know, when you get into that kind of streak, guys will start to think that way, and that's the death. You can't think that way. You just have to do your own thing. What's interesting is d'Arnaud might come back where he doesn't play on Tuesday, because Rivera and Syndergaard have something special going on.
It's true. So we might have to wait till Wednesday afternoon. That's interesting.
Right.
And it's a tough call for Terry, but you'd think against the Royals who run so much, you got to play Rivera, right? Robles ahead 1-2. And Ibar goes down swinging. Second strikeout for Robles, and there are 2 out in the inning.
Good breaking pitch from Robles. He's had 2 or 3 of them in this inning so far.
And Julio Teheran's going to stay in and bat. Teheran working on a 1-hit shutout. He's at 95 pitches through 7 innings. Last time a Brave threw a complete game 1-hitter, it was Jair Jurgens.
Oh, wow.
In 2011. Braves have already had a combined one-hitter against the Mets this year. The game Matt Whistler started against Matt Harvey early this year. Teheran 0 for 1 with a couple of sacrifices, and he laces one foul. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Jacob deGrom went the first 6, allowed 3 runs, 5 hits. Antonio Bastardo gave up 2 runs in the 7th. And now Robles trying to work around a couple of hits in the 8th. And Teheran takes another pretty good cut and fouls it off. 0-2.
Jair Jurgens was like a supernova, right? He was really good for about 2.5 years.
I think he hurt his knee, didn't he? And that led to his undoing.
Reminded me a little bit of Teheran, like Teheran, except Teheran throws a little harder.
That's laced into left field for a base hit. Peterson will be held at third. So Julio Teheran, who already has a couple of sacrifices, now has his 4th hit of the year.
Oh, just the fastball that ends up in the inner part. If a pitcher's going to hit a fastball, it's usually middle of the plate in. Why? Because most pitchers bail when they're facing another pitcher. So that inside part becomes kind of the middle for them. Good swing by Teheran, who's a good athlete.
Now Jeff Francoeur will get his first turn at bat with the bases loaded and 2 out. Francoeur homered yesterday, takes a big rip at a breaking ball, 0-1. Frenchie homered against Steven Matz last night, hit it off the facing of the second deck in left field. Came in this game when Malik Smith was hit by a pitch and had to leave. And that bounces away, and here comes Peterson to score. So the wild pitch brings in the 6th Atlanta run. And the natives are restless.
Well, you have to be. This is some ugly baseball. So I've seen some balks, some wild pitches, a pitcher getting a hit. Can't blame this on Plawecki. He did just about everything you could do on this slider that hits before the plate.
On the ledger of the Mets pitching staff today, 2 hit batsmen, a wild pitch, a balk, a home run. Runners at second and third. 1-1 the count to Francoeur. And the breaking ball, 1-2.
Remember, it was last year when Frenchie was with the Philadelphia Phillies when Robles, he won't do it here with runners on base, but quick pitch one of the Philadelphia Phillies hitters, and Frenchie almost lost it.
So did Larry Bowa.
Yeah, so I mean, you would think here that Francoeur doesn't want to only hit it 400, he wants to hit it 500 feet.
Yeah. Which is probably why he's getting a steady diet of sliders. 2-2 coming, and he struck him out to end the inning. So 3 hits and a wild pitch combined to produce a run for the Braves, and they lead 6-0 as we go to the bottom of the 8th at Citi Field. Out of the bullpen, 3 hits and a wild pitch. And another run on the board for the Braves, and Julio Teheran has had no such difficulty. 7 innings, 1 base runner. A Michael Conforto single in the 3rd. He's retired 15 in a row since then. Starts the 8th inning with 95 pitches under his belt. Loney, Flores, and Conforto trying to get something started for the Mets in the home 8th.
Teheran was just still jumping around, still spry out here in the 8th.
Well, it's a beautiful day.
It is beautiful. We're coming up on the solstice, aren't we? Be on Tuesday night.
Tuesday is the longest day of the year. Loney's been up twice, struck out both times after a big night last night. Julio Teheran looking for his 3rd win against 7 losses, but he has pitched so much better than that. Teheran had a couple of bobbles early in the season in April, but in his last 11 starts, now 12 including this one, he's allowed 3 earned runs or less in every one. Has a 2.13 ERA over those 11 starts, but only 2 wins.
Well, he's become Mr. Dependable for them. You know, he's going to make over 30 starts. He's going to pitch over 200 innings.
But here comes the question then.
Yeah.
Teheran is signed to a team-friendly contract. Signed a 6-year, $32 million deal that has 3 more years to run after this season. So it's a total delight for the organization. But if the Braves opted to trade him, they could get an enormous bounty of prospects. Fly ball center field, and in comes Inciarte. 1 away. So for a team that's rebuilding like the Braves and has really no intention of competing this year or probably next year for a division title, does it make more sense for them to look toward the future? I mean, they might be able to get 3 or 4 really good prospects because of the nature of how good Teheran is and how good his contract is.
Yeah, especially at the trading deadline, where you know you're going to get 10 to 12 more 10 to 12 starts out of him down the stretch when you need it. I think it all depends on, you know, what they expect to get for Teheran, and if someone wants to meet those demands because they think a starting pitcher will put them over the top.
I mean, think of what they got for Shelby Miller, right? I mean, they got a huge bounty, including Dansby Swanson, who, you know, was the #1 pick in the draft and everybody is so high on. Flores pops it up, and Chase d'Arnaud just shy of the railing, and he gets there to make the catch. Nice play by d'Arnaud for the 2nd out.
And Teheran's starting to make this look easy, and d'Arnaud makes the tough catch look easy himself.
Not quite the level of difficulty of Flores' play, but not bad.
Well, he got to the railing, and that's what made it look easy. But none of his teammates were there in case he went over. I'd have to check on that, Chase.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Michael Conforto, who's been the Mets' only base runner this afternoon. He singled into left center in the 3rd, a clean hit, which is all that Teheran has given up over 7 2/3. This one popped up into shallow left, a long run in for Frank Corbett. He'll get there, and it's a very easy bottom of the 8th for Teheran. It took him to 7 pitches. He might have the chance to go the distance now. 6-0 Atlanta going to the 9th.
And telecast is Sunday when the Mets hit the road to play the Atlanta Braves. Coverage begins at 1 o'clock with a Time Warner Cable pregame right here on New York's home for baseball, Pix 11.
Line score brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Also, Robles back out for a second inning of work. Ender Inciarte leads off the top of the ninth and takes outside for ball one. Inciarte 1 for 4, drove in a run with a third inning single. Braves got 2 in the third against DeGrom, added a run in the sixth on a Markakis home run, and they scored 3 runs in the last 2 innings against the Mets bullpen. Braves trying to sweep a series in New York for the first time since 2012.
And trying to win 5 in a row.
Smack to left center, and over comes Cespedes. 1 out. Give the Braves credit. They have made solid contact throughout this series against this Mets pitching staff. There's no action in the Braves bullpen, so it looks like Teheran will get every opportunity to complete the shutout. He has 2 shutouts in his career, 4 complete games. The last was in 2014. Freddie Freeman already has 3 hits today, a single and 2 doubles. He's driven in a run. By the way, this is a minor milestone today. It's the 600th game for the Mets at Citi Field. 600th regular season game. The Mets are 5 games under 500 since they moved here in 2009.
Well, I remember the team that the Braves had in 2013 when they were a lot like the Mets team this season. Lots of home runs, lots of strikeouts. In 2013 when they went to the playoffs against the Dodgers. And then last year, I mean 2014, they still were a team that was striking out, but they've started to make the transformation now. They have some more players that are putting the ball in play. And it's a little different team.
Well, that happened when they changed hitting coaches too. Kevin Seitzer brought a very different approach to the plate. But I think they would like to have more than 32 home runs at this point of the season. Freeman pops one up. And Flores comes over for a look, but that's out of play.
Well, the little things are the things that are going to pay off. You know, with Inciarte getting hurt, Malik Smith has gotten to play more, so maybe next season he's a more of a seasoned pro than they would have been playing in the minor leagues.
One-two to Freeman. And that's ripped off the glove of Loney. And Freeman has his 4th hit of the afternoon. The scorching hot Freddie Freeman with another bullet base hit.
Boy, in the last week, he's hit for the cycle. 4 hits this afternoon. What'd you say before that last at bat? 14 for 28 or something like that?
Now 17 for his last 31.
Wow.
And that's over a 7-game span. Hitting .548. And the last time the Mets saw Freeman in Atlanta, he couldn't buy a hit. Yeah. Here's Nick Markakis, who singled and homered, driven in 2 today. And Robles bounces a slider, ball 1. Nobody up in the Mets bullpen. It's on Robles to finish off this top of the ninth. Well, for a Mets team that has aspirations of getting back to the postseason and they hope to the World Series. They can only hope that this weekend against the Braves represents the bottom of their season. Began the day 6 games out, and if they lose this game, in all probability they're going to fall into 3rd place because the Marlins are leading their game against Colorado in the 8th inning. So Miami would leapfrog them in the standings. And we've talked about it innumerable times over the last couple of days. They've got these 2 games with Kansas City coming up, then 4 more in Atlanta, and then the schedule gets incredibly difficult. Cubs, Nationals, Marlins, Nationals again before the All-Star break. And that's the one area where the Nats have a big advantage over the Mets, in that not only are they 6 games in front going into the day, but they have completed their season series against the Cubs, who are by all odds the best team in baseball this year. So the Mets have a lot of work to do. 3-1 to Markakis, or excuse me, 2-2 to Markakis. And he struck him out with a high fastball. It's the 4th strikeout in relief for Robles, and the Mets 10th on the afternoon. Coming up on Pix 11, it's What Went Down. And on SNY, it's WB Mason post-game live. I still want to know, is What Went Down related to Oh Yeah? Because it sounds like the same thing.
Repackaged, Gary.
Headquarters is saying no relation. Just a coincidence.
Headquarters.
Coincidental similarity.
That's hilarious.
That's control, not chaos. We also have a clarification from control that the show What Went Down, the phrase What Went Down is not a question, it's a statement.
Well, I mean, that's your job, Gary. When you read the cards, you got to get it, spot on.
Well, there was not a question mark in the copy, so I kind of hedged it.
Okay.
2-0 to Tyler Flowers. And he pops one a mile high. And Flores waiting for it to come down, make sure he doesn't trip over 3rd base, and circles back to get it to retire the side. To the bottom of the 9th, Mets 3 outs away from potentially getting swept.
is bunting after a no-hitter. He's after a perfect ball game. Striking out. A perfect game for Jim Bunning. Here come his teammates. Oh, what a happy scene for the Phils and Jim Bunning.
It was Father's Day 52 years ago that Jim Bunning threw a perfect game at Shea Stadium. Johnny Stevenson struck out to end it.
A little breaking pitch from Jim.
Bob Murphy on the call.
Good job.
Now 52 years later, not quite a perfect game, but pretty close for Julio Teheran going to the ninth. He allowed just one base runner, a single by Conforto in the third. After that, he's retired 18 in a row. Kevin Plawecki leading off in the bottom of the ninth. The last two one-hitters the Braves have thrown were both against the Mets. We talked earlier about the Matt Whistler game back in early May when he allowed one hit in 8 innings and the bullpen completed a one-hitter. Before that, the previous one-hitter was a game that Aaron Harang started against the Mets in April of 2014. He threw 7 no-hit innings, and the Mets got just one hit that day. So those are the last two one-hitters that the Braves have thrown. And now trying to do it again today.
I've got Teheran for 113 as his pitch high this season.
Just outside, 1-2. Ty Kelly hitting ninth in the order on deck, and then Curtis Granderson for the Mets in the last of the ninth.
Missed it by 2. 115 is his season high.
And his career high is 128. He did that 2 years ago. 1-2 to Plawecki, and he fouls it away.
Well, they've got an open date just like the Mets do, so Teheran could get an extra day if he wanted to, if he's able to complete this shutout.
I don't think he's coming out unless he gives up a run.
Yeah. Kind of where Syndergaard was the other night.
1-2. And Plawecki goes down on the slider. One down in the last of the ninth. Strikeout number 7 for Teheran, who's now retired 19 in a row. Well, this was the only hit back in the third.
3-1 count to Conforto. Fastball down the middle and dropped it in front of center fielder Inciarte. That's it, folks.
No walks, 7 strikeouts, 19 in a row retired. Now Ty Kelly will get his first at bat after coming in a double switch. Changeup sails high.
Well, we've seen some good games this year, like you mentioned, Gary, the Tyone game and others. I don't know if I've seen the Mets go down this softly in a game this year. Not a lot of hard hit balls. A lot of pop-ups.
Maybe Kershaw is about the only one.
Yeah.
Popped up and foul ground. That'll go out of play. 1-2 to Kelly.
It's so funny whenever I talk about these games, I always exclude Kershaw because I just think he's on another planet. But Flowers and Teheran have just been in sync all day long. He puts the glove inside or outside, and Teheran hits it. It seems every time.
1-2 to Kelly. Smacked to short, right at Ibar. And there are 2 out. So Teheran 1 out away from a 1-hit shutout. 20 in a row retired. And the Mets down to their final out with Curtis Granderson coming up.
Hasn't lost anything really on his fastball. Still throwing 92, 93, 94.
Granderson takes a strike. He's had all 4 pitches working all day.
He really has. Fastball missed inside, changeup away.
Tight to Granderson, 2-1. As Drupal Cabrera would be next if Granderson can keep it going. And Curtis takes a strike, and now the Mets are down to their final strike. Teheran about to throw his season high 116th pitch. Open to seal it. Two-two. And Granderson wastes it. '25-year-old Julio Teheran looking for his 3rd career shutout. And he skips that one to the backstop. 3-2.
Might be the only pitch we've seen all afternoon that's missed that poorly.
This is only his 4th 3-ball count of the day. He hasn't walked a batter. Struck out 7. Retired the last 20. Three and 2 to Granderson. And Curtis pops it foul. Eighth pitch of the at-bat coming to Granderson. And there'll be another. Trying to finish him off with a high fastball. Again, the 3-2. And Granderson lifts it to left center. Francoeur and Inciarte, and Francoeur makes the catch. And Julio Teheran completes a 1-hit shutout, retiring the last 21 Mets and sending the Mets down to what they hope is rock bottom with a 3-game sweep at the hands of the lowly Braves.
Well, we came into this series saying that if the Mets could really make hay with the Braves, who have struggled all season long, but this is a different Braves team than they faced in Atlanta. They got hustled yesterday, and today just ran into a buzzsaw of Teheran.
Brian Snitker took over as the interim manager. He's now led his team to a 5-game winning streak. They're 14-18 since he arrived, and playing at a different kind of level right now. First 5-game winning streak for the Braves since early last season. The game summary brought to you by the Jeep Drive and Discover event. Teheran, the story today, allowed just 1 base runner all afternoon, a 3rd inning single by Michael Conforto, and then he retired the last 21 Mets to face him. Julio Teheran, a young pitcher at the top of his game, just his 3rd win, but the greatest performance of his career, a 1-hit shutout. Braves win 6-0 to complete the sweep of the Mets. We'll come back with more from Citi Field in just a moment.